actually supposed to do this review a few days ago. Matter of fact, I was actually supposed to do this review a few weeks ago, and beyond that, I was actually supposed to do this review like a month ago, but then life happened, and then the art of procrastination and getting busy with other stuff happened, and so it's been a while, and I should have had this review up, and I apologize for anybody who was just looking at me like, hey, where's the last of your Fast and Furious reviews? Like, what gives? It's the final in my series of Fast and Furious reviews, and unfortunately, it is the last film in this franchise to star Paul Walker as Brian O'Connor, who's like one of the biggest characters in the franchise, if not the biggest character in the franchise next to Vin Diesel. So Furious 7 is a film that is directed by James Wan. It's like one of the first Fast and Furious movies not to be directed by Justin Lin. Justin Lin directed a lot of these movies, and then James Wan comes in, and we all know James Wan from horror movies like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, stuff like that. And it stars the original crew from the previous movies. You know, Dom is back, Letty is back, Brian O'Connor obviously is back. You got Tez and Roman. You've got a newcomer played by the gorgeous ass Nathalie Emmanuel. Jesus Christ. Got Jason Statham in this movie as the big bad villain. He plays Owen Shaw's bigger brother. Yeah, in the last movie, Dom and his crew messed up Owen Shaw's plans, and then Dom basically threw him out of an airplane. He's in a coma in this movie, and in this movie, his big bad older brother, Deckard Shaw, is the main villain, and he's out for revenge, and he's out to attack Dom and his crew and to take them all out. And so that sets up a pretty interesting revenge thing, where you've got Dom and his crew versus Jason Statham, and that's pretty much the crux of the movie. Some other stuff happens, and then there's a tangled web that gets woven, and then that's where we are with this movie, guys. One disappointing aspect to this film is that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is not in this movie as much as he's in the previous movies, and for anyone who came to these movies because they like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in these movies, he's actually not in this movie all that much at all. He has a pretty cool ass fight scene in the very beginning of the movie, an unrealistic but awesome fight scene where he and Jason Statham basically decapitate each other for the entire fight. It seriously, both of them or one of them should have died at least 5 times that I can count during that fight, and they don't, because these are superheroes at this point, but I don't care. It looks really awesome. There's one part where The Rock, like, he does this huge, like, Superman that hoe uppercut on Deckard Shaw, and he should have detached his neck from his body and sent it flying out the window, but apparently Jason Statham is fine after that. He also body slams Jason Statham and his entire soul through the floor, and Jason Statham, again, it should have been like one of those fatality type of moments, but it's not. Jason Statham also slices The Rock, it looks like in his nuts with a piece of glass, and The Rock is just fine. I don't know how these people do this thing, but either way, that was a pretty awesome fight scene, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is actually not in the movie that much aside from that scene, which is kind of a bummer, because I've grown used to having Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in these films. I liked him in the previous movies. He's not really in this movie that much. It kind of sucks. The only real subplot involved with the characters in this movie is, okay, well, Brian is trying to transition away from a life of crime and fast cars, and he's trying to settle down with Mia, and they have a kid, and she has another kid on the way, and so a kind of a focal point in this movie is trying to transition the character of Brian O'Connor into domestic life, and they were kind of hinting at this in the last movie, but they just go full bore with it in this movie. And it makes sense because, as we know, Paul Walker did tragically pass away while this film was being filmed. He only filmed, I think, half of his scenes, and then the rest of the scenes were filled in with his brothers and CGI and stunt doubles and stuff like that. So it makes sense that they're trying to find a way to peacefully retire his character, and I feel like they actually handled a lot of that stuff really well. Is it gonna feel like it honors the character of Brian O'Connor and the man that Paul Walker was? They handled it as beautifully as you could. I mean, it's hard to watch the end of this movie and not feel something as a human being. It's really hard. The only other major subplot in this movie is you've got Dom and Letty, and you've got Letty trying to remember herself. She has love for Dom and the rest of the crew because of the kind of people that they are, but she doesn't actually remember who she was before all of this happened. She just kind of knows them, but she doesn't know herself, and so that's kind of her struggle in this movie, is trying to figure out how to remember herself the best. The big plot point around which this whole movie revolves is something called the God's Eye. There's this piece of technology that can basically do anything. It can find anyone, anywhere. It can probably cook you pancakes in the morning. It could probably give you a back rub if you asked it nicely. And either way, Kurt Russell, who is like this CIA spook kind of guy, he kind of recruits Dom and his team to go after this God's Eye thing because they want to keep it out of the wrong hands. After that, and they're like, hey, if you find it, you can use the God's Eye and you can find Deckard Shaw. Deckard Shaw, who pops up at random moments in this movie for no reason at all, just to have an action scene. Don't get me wrong, Jason Statham is a very capable action actor, and he is kind of badass in the scenes that he's in this movie. His role in this movie is kind of jumbled and kind of convoluted. He just kind of pops in and out of the movie at random times for no real reason. I mean, if you actually follow the story of this thing, where they're trying to track down this God's Eye thing, and then there's this other terrorist group that is after the God's Eye, and then somehow they're working with Deckard Shaw, but yet Deckard Shaw, it seems like he's only popping into the movie because he wants to, like, attack Dom, or he wants to attack the rest of the crew. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why he's in the movie at the moments that he's in the movie. He just kind of shows up, and it doesn't make a ton of sense. In that sense, you feel like that the movie is a little bit more convoluted than it needs to be. I don't need these movies to be Oscar bait in terms of story. I don't need to look at these movies and go, yeah, that's going to win Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. No, I just need the movie to follow a simple train of thought. I need it to stay on track, stay in its lane, and at least give me something that I can follow with relative ease. In this movie, the story is kind of all over the place, and Jason Statham and his popping in and out of the story didn't really help matters all that much. It seems like every Fast and Furious movie, and we saw this in Fate of the Furious, which came out earlier this year, the action sequences always seem like they're trying to top themselves and go above and beyond and go further than they've ever gone before, and so they do try to top themselves. There's a ridiculous stunt involving cars falling out of an airplane. It's like the last battle sequence in the movie, which takes place on the streets of Los Angeles. It's completely unrealistic, and it goes on for way too long, and you have to suspend your disbelief. But again, they're counting on you having enough fun that you're not going to be thinking about these things while the scene is going on. And yeah, okay, you guys got me. I mentioned her earlier, Nathalie Emmanuel, who is like a real-life supermodel. She, like, comes into this movie and she joins the team. She's a hacker. She's like Tez, except if Tez was a woman that I wanted to sleep with every night for the rest of my life. That's pretty much her character in this movie. She's very smart. She's very intelligent. She's very computer savvy. But that body and that, she's just, oh, good Lord. I mean, come on. Seriously. How in God's name does a woman look this goddamn fine?
I cannot believe my eyes. Pinch me in my...
I mean, I don't even really need to review the rest of the movie. That's it. That's the cherry on top. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about. It's that scene. There's nothing else. I'm done. This movie review is over. Guys, in the end, Furious 7 is a really fun, action-packed entry into the Furious franchise. It feels like they kind of went too far in some places in terms of the story. I think Jason Statham, while he's badass, isn't as good a villain as Owen Shaw was in the previous movie. But there is a really beautiful tribute to Paul Walker, and I feel like you can't watch this movie without feeling like, damn, Paul Walker is gone, and it's still sad, and you feel for his family, and it was such a tragic thing, gone way too soon. And I'm not going to give this movie my highest rating. I will go and say it's Man of Steel good. It's almost great. Silver Age sounds like a good place to put this thing in. Paul Walker movie, let me know down below. Please stay tuned. I've got a lot of big announcements for the Superfan Show coming up. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the